1 second. That's a pretty tiny amount of time now, isn't it? I'm not even gonna ask what you could manage to do in that amount of time. It's like a blink or a swipe on TikTok. Basically, it's almost nothing. But what if we're talking about the Earth, and specifically its rotation? Could we just change it a little? You know our planet is huge and complex, and any disruption could lead to serious consequences and all that. But come on, it's just 1 single second, and then it'll continue rotating as usual, like nothing ever happened. What could possibly go wrong? Well, honestly, a lot more than you may think. And as you've probably guessed from the title, today we're going to stop the planet's rotation for 1 single second. And trust me, that's going to be more than enough to ruin your life. But I don't want to give away too many spoilers just yet. Let's just say that everything will change. A lot. But to find out all the shocking consequences, make sure you watch this video until the end. And before we begin, don't forget to hit the subscribe button. It's what helps the channel to grow and lets me bring you more videos like this one. And if you subscribe while you're watching, that would be even better. If you haven't yet, go ahead, because now's the perfect time to do it. And with all of that said, let's jump right in. Now, first off, to understand what would happen if the planet stopped rotating, let's figure out together why it's rotating in the first place. I mean, what does this affect and why is it so important? Like, how does it actually work? The Earth's rotation started billions of years ago, when the solar system was just forming. As dust and gas all clumped together to form the planet, something called conservation of angular momentum kept the planet turning. But I don't think that we need those fancy terms. Simply put, in the universe, once something begins spinning, it just keeps on spinning. So that's why Earth has been spinning ever since. But why does that matter? Well, it's responsible for a whole lot of things that we take for granted, like day and night, for example. As the Earth rotates, different parts of it face the sun. That gives us sunlight and darkness in a regular cycle. And this rotation also helps to regulate temperatures and plays a big role in ocean currents, which are really important for the weather patterns. Oh, and speaking of oceans, I've already got a video about what would happen if the ocean suddenly disappeared. I'll leave a link to that in the description, so keep that in mind if you haven't watched it yet. Now back to the rotation. Of course, it's more than just giving us a nice day and night routine. It even affects gravity. You see, the Earth is not a perfect sphere. It's slightly flattened at the poles and bulging at the equator because of its spin. And this actually means that gravity is just a bit weaker at the equator than it is at the poles. And even though we knew that the Earth's rotation wasn't just some random movement, we now understand in detail why it's a fundamental part of how our planet functions. But I'm only getting started. Let's go deeper into what would really happen if the Earth suddenly hit the brakes. Just imagine something like this. You're sitting at home and everything's alright. It's a sunny day and all of that, and then in one blink of an eye, the sky suddenly darkens. People, trees, cars, and anything that's not firmly anchored are thrown through the air at a terrifying speed. The ground beneath you shakes violently as massive earthquakes ripple across the planet. It's like the entire world's being torn apart right before your eyes. Now, you might think that you're the lucky one being at home so you won't be thrown into the sky, but even though the Earth resumes its rotation just 1 second after, the damage would already be done. But let's talk about why all of this would happen, and why, at home, anchored to the ground or even in some kind of bunker, you still wouldn't survive. You see, our planet rotates at a particular speed, around 1,000 miles per hour at the equator, and that means that me and you and everything around us is always on the move. Even if you're standing still, you're still actually moving along with that rotation. And when that 1 second stop happens, everything, including yourself, still wants to keep on moving at that speed. This is where inertia comes into play. The force that keeps things in motion unless something else stops them. And that's also why everything that isn't firmly attached or deeply anchored would be thrown forward at a terrifying speed. To give you an idea, people on the streets could be thrown as far as 4 football fields, or even further in just 1 second. And obviously, surviving something like that is not really an option. As for you being at home, well, you'd be slammed into the ceiling with an impact comparable to a high-speed car crash, but much more severe. And most likely, even this wouldn't have time to happen. Why? Because of the wind. You see, the thing is, during that 1 second stop, the atmosphere would keep on moving at its original speed, creating wind speeds of over 1,000 miles per hour. That's more than enough to destroy most man-made structures like houses and buildings, bridges, and even skyscrapers. The sheer force of these winds would turn debris into deadly projectiles, making survival nearly impossible no matter where you are. In short, this 1 second event would almost certainly lead to the extinction of humanity as we know it. But enough about us. This kind of event would totally mess up the environment as well. The oceans, which are also moving, wouldn't just stop right away. The water would surge forward, creating massive tsunamis that would slam into coastlines with incredible force. Entire cities near the coast could be wiped out in mere seconds, and the flooding would spread far inland, causing even more damage. Then there are those earthquakes. The sudden stop would shake up the Earth's crust, causing huge earthquakes all over the world as tectonic plates get jolted out of place. It will even change the shape of the planet. As I said earlier, right now the Earth has a bit of a bulge around the middle because of the way that it spins. But if it suddenly stopped, well, that bulge would begin to shrink as everything gets pulled back toward the center. This could cause the grounds to shift around a lot, leading to more earthquakes and maybe even volcanic eruptions as the Earth tries to adjust to its new shape. With the land and water moving around, the way that air and ocean currents flow would change, which would mess up the weather patterns that we're used to. Deserts would become green and fertile, while areas that are now full of life might dry up and become barren. The climate, it could go haywire, with some places getting really cold and others becoming scorching hot. Then there's something interesting about gravity. Now, normally the Earth's rotation creates a small centrifugal force, which makes gravity just a bit weaker at the equator. But if the Earth had stopped, that force would disappear and gravity would suddenly become stronger. And it's here that you may be asking, what about the astronauts? That's a good question, because they would be in serious danger too. This sudden halt of the Earth's rotation would create a brief but intense disturbance in the forces acting on their orbits. While their paths might not instantly spiral out of control, even the slightest disruption could send them off course. This could mean that astronauts would need to make rapid adjustments to maintain a safe orbit, a risky task under normal circumstances, but even more so during a global catastrophe. If astronauts tried to re-enter Earth's atmosphere after such an event, it wouldn't be as straightforward as usual. The Earth's atmosphere might still be turbulent from the sudden stop and start and filled with debris from the chaos below, and the ground itself might be unrecognizable. Attempting to land safely would be like trying to navigate through a war zone. Re-entry might technically be possible, but surviving it would be a long shot. And then there's the issue of communication. Forget about the links between space stations and ground control, they wouldn't even exist anymore. And without these connections, astronauts would be cut off from updates, guidance, and other life-saving information. Just imagine being up there, knowing something catastrophic has happened on Earth, but having no way to communicate or get the help you need. Supplies on board would be limited, and without any clear idea of what's happening on the ground, they might be stranded in orbit with no clear path forward, just left adrift in a world that's no longer the one they knew. But then, when will all the craziness end? Will Earth ever be normal again? And could those astronauts just stay in space until things settle down and come back? These are the big questions that bring us to the final part of the video, where I'll talk about what happens after everything calms down and what Earth might look like afterward. And if you're enjoying the video so far, go ahead and hit that like button, because that's what lets me know that you want more videos like this. And if you haven't subscribed, make sure you do that. It only takes 1 second. We publish a new video every week, and you won't want to miss out on the next one coming out soon. Thanks for the support, and let's get back into the final part. Now, I've already talked about the immediate consequences of the Earth stopping for 1 second, but now let's focus on the long-term effects. Even after the Earth starts spinning again, it won't be the same spin that we're used to. The planet's huge, so it will begin spinning slightly slower, which means the length of days and even the seasons will change. The Earth's crust and atmosphere will suffer long-lasting damage. Tectonic plates will have shifted, leading to more earthquakes and volcanic eruptions for hundreds and possibly thousands of years. And for decades, the atmosphere will remain chaotic, with stronger storms and unpredictable temperature swings. And as for those astronauts that are up in space, even if they did manage to survive and wait just a few years or even a decade until things calm down, coming back to Earth would be a major challenge. The planet they return to wouldn't be the same one that they left. With everyone on Earth already extinct, they'll come back to a world that's completely changed. The ground will be unstable, and that will make it nearly impossible to find a safe place to land. The weather will be so unpredictable that surviving day to day, well, just wouldn't really be an option. Over the course of the decades or centuries, the Earth might slowly become habitable again. Some resilient species of plants and animals, well, they could eventually adapt to the new conditions, gradually repopulating the planet. But as for us humans, the chances are slim. In the end, the world that emerges after centuries of recovery would be alien, with no chance we would ever call it home again. Well, now you know what would happen if the Earth stopped for even just 1 second, and how fragile the balance of everything around us really is, where even the smallest change could lead to the extinction of everything we know. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a like, and let me know in the comments your ideas for how we can mess with the Earth in future videos. And if you want more videos like this one, click on that one to find out what would happen if all the ocean suddenly dried up. Thanks for watching, click on that video, and I'll see you over there in just a moment.